Number 10. Deadly Leopard Seal. 2003 wasn't a great year to be a scientist in Antarctica. That summer, a British marine biologist became the first human fatality of a leopard seal. Her name was Christy Brown, and she was snorkeling near the Rothera Research Station on the Antarctic Peninsula when she came face to face with a leopard seal. Everything seemed nice and friendly at first, and then the unthinkable happened. The leopard seal attacked Christy, grabbed hold of her, and then dragged her under the water for several minutes. The seal didn't bite her face off or do anything particularly violent. It simply hit her a little, then dragged her deep down into the water with it. It's not like the creature had any idea that Christy couldn't hold her breath that long. A rescue boat was launched immediately when the other researchers realized what was happening. But by the time Christy was pulled out of the water, it was too late. Attempts were made to resuscitate the marine biologist, but they all failed. This really came as a shock though, because a leopard seal had never before attacked and killed a person. Plus, Christy was a very experienced diver and had been going on expeditions in places like the Arctic and Greenland since 1995. It was a true tragedy that her career came to an end at the jaws of a huge and disgruntled seal. The only remotely good thing that came out of this situation is that now researchers are a lot more careful when dealing with these undersea monsters. They may look cute and cuddly, but they'll drag you to your death. Number 9. Squirrel Rampage. During the Christmas season of 2021, a squirrel went on an insane rampage and injured 18 people. We can't make this up. The vicious animal terrorized the countryside of Buckley in England, earning itself the nickname Stripe, after the mean gremlin in the movie Gremlins. It all started with a woman named Corinne Reynolds. The 65-year-old had been feeding the squirrel for about a year. It was a frequent and friendly visitor, stopping by her garden for a bit of a snack now and then. It stole bird food and would even take nuts right out of Corinne's hand. But one day, it turned violent. Corinne was in her garden. The squirrel showed up and started biting her. Then it went after her neighbors. Local social media pages became awash in pictures of people's bites from the suddenly violent squirrel. Some people had to get tetanus jabs and were sent to the hospital after the furry creature invaded their property and bit their fingers. Nobody was seriously injured, and no one got more than a few bites and a quick trip to the hospital. But still, Stripe the squirrel proved to be a formidable foe. He was captured and had to be put down by the RSPCA. It was a sad day for everyone, but the squirrel was simply too much of a menace. Number 8. Fox at the Mobile Home Park. A woman in Brunswick Mobile Home Park got herself into a nightmare of a situation in March of 2021. It was a Friday night, and Kimberly Bichon was sitting on her porch having a smoke. She was just there relaxing when suddenly there came the noise of something scurrying underneath her deck. Kimberly happened to have a baseball bat sitting beside her chair. It was there in case a wild animal or a wild human ran up her steps and tried to attack her. Scared for her safety, Kimberly gripped the bat in both hands and crept to the railing. She peered over, hoping it wasn't a big cat or some other monster stalking her from beneath. And that was when a fox darted up the stairs and sank its teeth into her leg. Kimberly acted on instinct. She swung the bat down, hitting the fox hard. At that point, absolute chaos erupted. Kimberly screamed, which prompted her neighbors to come running over. One of her sons called 911 because he didn't know what was happening, and everyone was yelling. And all the while, the poor fox was getting beaten by a baseball bat. When everything had finally settled down, the fox was dead. Foxes are almost always shy of humans and will typically avoid attacking whenever possible. The only reason a fox ever gets aggressive towards a person, especially when unprompted, is that they're rabid, affected with rabies. Luckily, even though the fox bit Kimberly on the leg, it didn't break her skin. She didn't have to get a rabies shot, and the animal didn't need to be tested. Still, it was almost certainly infected for just how vicious it was acting. As horrible as it was that Kimberly killed the animal, if she hadn't done it, someone else would have. The fox would have just attacked again and again as the rabies got worse and worse. Number 7. Camel Rampage. In March of 2022, a camel went on a vicious rampage in Tennessee. Law enforcement officers were called to a petting zoo after a camel escaped and killed 2 men. Deputies with the O'Brien County Sheriff's Office showed up and found the men dead on the ground. When they tried to move one of the men inside an ambulance, the camel came out of nowhere and attacked the vehicle. The animal was acting aggressively towards the sheriffs, and the police had no choice but to shoot it on the spot. The deceased were identified as Bobby Matheny and Tommy Gunn, both from Tennessee and both working at the petting zoo at Shirley Farms. The animal had somehow managed to get itself free from its enclosure, at which point it hunted the men down and mauled them to death. If you didn't think camels can kill, this should be a major wake-up call. The desert creature became violent with no warning and trampled and bit both men until they were no longer breathing. Camels can be wildly dangerous and are able to kick forwards and backwards. And when they get into a frenzy, almost nothing can stop them. Camels have 2 pairs of canine teeth, which are extremely sharp, even capable of biting a person's head off. Number 6. Attack of the Crocodile. A tourist on vacation in the Philippines in November of 2021 made a near-fatal mistake when they mistook a live crocodile for a plastic replica. According to the local news, the tourist was at an amusement park in Cagayan de Oro City when he spotted the creature in a shallow pool. Believing it wasn't real, the 68-year-old man took out his phone and approached the edge of the pool. His goal was to get a selfie, which he thought would be cool since the crocodile looked so lifelike. Much to his surprise, the crocodile exploded out of the water and grabbed him. The beast clamped its jaws over his arm and dragged him into the pool. The man's family had been standing just a few feet away when the attack happened. They had been watching him creep closer to the pool and didn't realize he was in grave danger. When the crocodile burst out of the water, they shrieked in terror and rushed to the edge, but were unsure of what to do next. Nobody wanted to get in and fight the crocodile themselves, and so they stood at the edge and watched the man fight it himself. Amazingly, he managed to break free and escape, but the crocodile had left him in some serious condition. His arm was bloody, shredded from the croc's teeth, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. He made a full recovery, but his arm will be covered in scars for the rest of his life. And all just because he thought he was taking a selfie with a piece of plastic. Number 5. Mighty Bengal Tiger. A tiger named Volta went on a mad rampage at Tokyo Zoo back in January of 2022, attacking 3 zoo workers. It happened at the Nasu Safari Park in the Tochigi Prefecture. According to the operator of the zoo, all 3 of the keepers who were attacked were in their 20s, 1 male and 2 females. One of the women was bitten on several parts of her body. The male victim got chomped on the back of his head, and the 3rd keeper lost her entire right hand. The one who lost her hand had to be taken by a medical helicopter to hospital, while the other 2 were taken by an ambulance. How did it happen? There was apparently a malfunction with one of the door parts, which allowed the tiger, a beast of 400 pounds, to sneak out of its enclosure. When the 3 keepers were going about their daily duties at around 8:30 in the morning, they came face to face with the tiger in a narrow corridor. It launched itself at them, bit them multiple times, and then ran away. So far as we know, the tiger is still alive and won't be put down, and all 3 victims are alive and well. The only major injury is the one woman who will never get her hand back. Number 4. Grizzly Encounter. In March of 2022, Craig Cloutre went for the last hike of his life. He was discovered dead on Friday after being missing for 2 days. He had ventured into the densely forested mountains near Yellowstone National Park, veering off the trail in search of antlers. You see, elk and other animals will shed their antlers and leave them sitting in the forest, and these can be used for all kinds of crafts at home. But what Craig had not expected was to meet a grizzly bear. According to authorities, the attack was almost certainly a chance encounter. Since nobody was there to witness it, no one knows exactly what happened. All we know is that Craig bumped into a bear in the middle of the forest, and the bear wasn't too happy about it. It mauled Craig, leaving his tattered corpse on the forest floor for 48 hours until somebody finally came across it. Craig was a family man, a father of 4, who left behind his wife and all his children. He was such a beloved man in his community that a fundraiser for his family has already raised over $100,000. Number 3. The Venomous Viper. A man in North Carolina almost died after he was bitten by a gaboon viper in early 2022. The gaboon viper is one of the most venomous snakes in the entire world. The single bite was so severe that the man lost several of his fingers and had to be treated with 44 bottles of antivenom over a course of 7 days. To give you some idea of how much antivenom that is, that's roughly double what's used for a normal snakebite. The toxic serpent is native to sub-Saharan Africa and boasts the highest venom yield of any venomous snakes. It has fangs 2 inches long, and its bite is almost always fatal if not treated instantly. But maybe the bigger question here is how a man from South Carolina was nearly killed by an African snake. According to local reports, he had been caring for it, meaning it was his pet. We have no idea where he got it from, but after the bite, he had to spend several months healing in the hospital. That's just how horrible the venom from the Gaboon viper is. And even with all those anti-venom treatments, doctors still weren't sure he would survive. Hopefully this man has learned his lesson about caring for venomous animals. Maybe next time he'll get a puppy instead. Number 2. An illegal crocodile. Speaking of illegal pets, let's take a look at a woman who was killed in an Indonesian pearl farm in 2019 by Mary, her pet crocodile. The crocodile was being kept illegally by researcher DZ2O. The 44-year-old who headed the laboratory at the farm was last seen feeding her gigantic reptile before her corpse was discovered by her co-workers later that day. When they found her, her body was terribly mauled. One of her hands had been ripped clean off, and part of her abdomen was eaten. It was grisly to say the least, and a very unfortunate demise for the scientist. Naturally, the crocodile needed to be taken care of. An operation involving over a dozen people was launched to sedate the crocodile and get it off the farm. It was moved to an animal conservation organization where it will get the care it needs. Thankfully, the experts recognized it wasn't the crocodile's fault, so they're not putting the animal down. They believe DZ2O slipped while feeding the beast and tumbled straight into its mouth. If you were a crocodile, you wouldn't have been able to help yourself either. Number 1. Bitten by a shark. A girl in Australia was bitten by a shark at the end of 2021. It was about a week before Christmas, and the 15-year-old girl was visiting Victoria's Surf Coast with a friend for some fun in the sun. She was standing in water only up to her waist when, from out of nowhere, a shark brushed past her leg and decided it looked like a tasty treat. It chomped down on her, tearing flesh from bone. Then it turned and attacked the teenage boy she had gone to the beach with, biting him on his back. The terrible incident happened at Ocean Grove on a Monday evening. The girl had to undergo surgery on her calf, while the boy she was with had to be treated for a wound on his back left by the shark's teeth. Luckily for both the teenagers, there happened to be off-duty lifeguards and a former nurse present at the beach, and they were able to take care of them until the paramedics arrived. It just goes to show, even standing in water up to your knees can be deadly in Australia. Would you rather be attacked by a venomous viper or a very large and very angry crocodile? Let us know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button and we'll see you again soon. Bye!